This video highlights the Kansas City Chiefs' amazing 1969 season. Their fans loved them, especially for their high level of physicality. They were a powerhouse, as they scored the second most points in the AFL on plays like this long bomb from Len Dawson to Frank Pitts. Their defense was punishing and allowed only 12.6 points per game, the fewest in the league. Their per-game point differential was a whopping plus 13. One number that the 1969 Chiefs would rather have overlooked is the AFL record 10 fumbles in a single game against the Oilers in these sloppy playing conditions. In a 1964 game against the Chargers, quarterback Len Dawson set an AFL/NFL record with 7. Nevertheless, the 1969 Chiefs were a powerhouse. They had margin of victories of 31, 24, 24, 22, 20, and 18 points. Their offense was led by quarterback Len Dawson, who is nicknamed Lenny the Cool for his perpetual display of grace under pressure. Amazingly, he only had one rushing attempt in the entire regular season. However, he was quite adept at maneuvering within the passing pocket in which to buy time in selecting an open receiver and completing a high number of passes, and even 59% of them, in fact, which led the AFL. In Week 2's 31-0 pasting of the Patriots, 34-year-old Dawson suffered a mild tear of the medial ligament of his left knee. He was advised to have immediate surgery, which would have likely ended his season, but he decided against it and missed games 3 through 7. In that 5-game stretch that Dawson was sidelined, they won 4 games. In those 4 games, they scored 109 points and only allowed 45. Jackie Lee, a 10-year veteran, started just his 25th game in Week 3. He hit Gloucester Richardson for a touchdown in a 13-10 lead at halftime. He threw this interception and finished with 11 completions and 18 attempts for only 78 yards. His season and career were also finished when he broke an ankle in this game. The highlight of his career prior to being on the Super Bowl winning team was a 98-yard touchdown pass versus the Chargers in 1962. The Chiefs' 1968 second-round draft choice, Mike Livingston, was the Chiefs' new starting quarterback. He had only thrown 2 passes as a rookie, and now the former SMU star was thrown into the fire, or should I say the mud. Livingston completed 14 of 27 passes for 214 yards, with no touchdowns or interceptions in a 26-13 victory. The 6'4", 212-pounder broke most of Don Meredith's passing records while at SMU. Erie connected with tight end Fred Arbanis for 24 yards. Number 36, rookie cornerback Billy Thompson shoved him out of bounds. Livingston had a strong throwing arm, as seen here, when he hit hurdling Otis Taylor for a 29-yard gain. Notice the snow piled up on the sidelines for this October 5th game. In the following week's game, he had fine passing protection, but cut loose for an excellent 39-yard run, the second longest of his 12-year pro career. He started 6 games during the season with only 4 touchdown passes, 3 in this Week 7 42-22 win against 6 interceptions, yet he made the AFL All-Star team. In the following week's game against Buffalo, Livingston was only 2 of 8 passing for 15 yards, 1 interception, and 1 sack before giving way to Len Dawson, who was deemed healthy enough to play. Dawson started 7 regular season games, threw 9 touchdown passes against 13 interceptions, and he too was named to the AFL All-Star team. In Week 10 at New York, the Jets battered Dawson, but it didn't stop him from throwing 3 touchdown passes to Otis Taylor. Dawson was injured again in Week 12 against Denver. He had missed only 3 games in the 9 years prior to 1969. Livingston took over in the Denver game and against Buffalo the following week. But it was Dawson who started the regular season finale and the rest of the way to Super Bowl glory. The Chiefs' offensive output was heavily skewed towards the running game. They had the most attempts, yards, touchdowns in the AFL, and were second best in yards per carry. Robert Holmes made the All-Star team, and the 5'9" 221-pounder had an apt nickname, Tank. He was quite a find as the Chiefs' 1968 14th-round draft pick. This draw play worked extremely well. Holmes wasn't touched until he had already gained 20 yards. Despite being known as a bruising running back, Holmes also had nimbleness and enough speed to outrun a lot of linebackers too. But this is the quintessential Tank Holmes. Another hard-nosed running back was Wendell Hayes. Defensive backs shook in their boots when he ran with a full head of steam. His 220-pound frame offered no respite to opposing defenses when Tank Holmes took a breather. Counterbalancing the bruised brothers was halfback Mike Garrett. He was the 1965 Heisman Trophy winner while at USC. In Week 2, he contributed 79 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown, along with 49 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. Garrett displayed a variety of effective moves and was surprisingly difficult to bring down for a 5'9" 195-pounder. For the season, Garrett combined for 1,164 yards from scrimmage, the second most in the AFL, along with 8 total touchdowns. When Garrett needed a rest, 5'9" 185-pounder Warren McVay stepped into duty and performed admirably. He ran for an even 500 yards and an excellent 4.7 yards per carry. He was traded from Cincinnati on September 9, 1969, for kicker Horst Muhlmann and a draft choice. He made them pay for it with this blistering 80-yard touchdown run. Wide receiver Otis Taylor was the Chiefs' major receiving threat with 41 catches and 7 receiving touchdowns. At Prairie View A&M College, he was nicknamed Slug by teammates after he slugged an opposing team player. On this 93-yard play, the longest in the AFL in 1969, Taylor pulled a muscle, but was conscientious enough to lateral the ball to Robert Holmes. Taylor was 6'3", 215 pounds, and perhaps the strongest wide receiver in both the AFL and NFL. Combining his strength with athletic moves made him one of pro football's greatest game breakers. Opposite Taylor at wide receiver was number 25, Frank Pitts, one of the game's swiftest receivers. He caught 31 passes in 1969, along with numerous long gainers like these. When Taylor missed 7 games due to injuries, Gloucester Richardson picked up some of the slack. He caught 23 passes with a 16.6 yards per catch. Fred Arbanis was past his prime in 1969, but the AFL Hall of Fame first-team All-1960s team member still moved his 240-pound frame to great benefit. The Chiefs' offensive line was massive for 1969. They averaged 6 foot 5 inches and 264 pounds for their guards and tackles. While especially effective as run blockers, as noted earlier with 3 number 1 league rushing rankings, they were also very good pass blockers. Center E.J. Holub made second-team All-Pro in 1969, the 4th time that he made either first or second-team All-Pro. In 1961, he was the Dallas Texans' first-round draft choice from then-named Texas Tech College. Number 77, Jim Tyrer, made first-team All-Pro in 1969. Even though he has a pedigree that warrants Pro Football Hall of Fame induction and is superior in quality to some entrants who toiled on the offensive line, he has not been inducted. The reason seems to stem from his killing of his wife and himself in 1980. Evidence suggests that he might have suffered from football-related head trauma. The Chiefs' defense was absolutely incredible. They were number 1 in the AFL in fewest passing yards, fewest rushing yards, fewest passing touchdowns, fewest rushing touchdowns, most interceptions, and lowest yards per carry. They physically dominated most of their opponents, like against hotshot rookie running back O.J. Simpson and the Buffalo Bills in Week 13. Pillars of strength resided at defensive tackle. Number 86, Buck Buchanan, and number 61, Curly Culp, stonewalled oppositional running games and combined for an impressive 15 sacks. Culp was a former NCAA wrestling champion who utilized those skills to great success on the gridiron. Defensive end Jerry Mays made second-team All-Pro. He was voted as the AFL's all-time best defensive end, and he had 11 sacks in 1969. Aaron Brown manned the other defensive end, and amazingly, he didn't make the All-Star team or any All-Pro teams despite 14 quarterback sacks. Bobby Bell was voted the AFL's all-time best outside linebacker. Rookie O.J. Simpson found out why. Bell was an absolute menace to opposing offenses. Middle linebacker Willie Lanier was a compact 6 foot 1 inch, 245-pound wrecking ball. Jim Lynch was one of the most mobile outside linebackers in pro football. He was also a devastating tackler. On this play, he essentially ended Bengals quarterback Greg Cook's promising career. His throwing arm was damaged, and he headed for Nippert Stadium's locker room. Officially named James Campbell Nippert Memorial Stadium then, it's been a permanent concrete stadium since 1915. Prior to Cook's injury, he stepped in front of Eric Crabtree to pilfer the pass, then lateral to Jim Kearney in order to gain more yardage. Strong safety Kearney really knew what to do with it once he got his hands on the ball. On 5 thefts in 1969, he averaged 28.6 yards per return. For his career, he averaged 20.0 yards per return on 23 interceptions. First-team All-Pro free safety Johnny Robinson's 158 interception return yards led the AFL. Cornerback Emmett Thomas's 9 interceptions led the AFL, but he didn't make the All-Star team or first or second-team All-Pro for some ridiculous reason. Could Thomas tackle? Dang right he could. The rest of the secondary could hit hard too. Jim Marsalis made the All-Star team, and he was the most ferocious tackler in the secondary. Marsalis could defend the pass well too. Johnny Robinson's 8 interceptions was second best on the team and in the league. He was named as the AFL's all-time best safety. Quarterback Emmett Thomas wasn't even drafted. He signed with the Chiefs as a free agent in 1966 and made some sweet interceptions in leading the AFL in 1969. In Jim Kearney's first 2 professional seasons, he didn't intercept any passes, but after being sold by the Lions to the Eagles and then released by them, he'd finally found a home in Kansas City. Head coach Hank Stram was a 3-time AFL champion who instituted a revolutionary offense, starting with a conspicuous huddle formation that was nicknamed the Choir Huddle. It was created as a distinct visual identity for the team. Per a Sporting News article, Stram used it to emphasize the Chiefs' almost militaristic, disciplined style of play. Stacked backfields and multiple shift formations with gadget plays were commonplace, like when number 12 Tom Flores lobbed this slick lollipop to Tank Holmes for 6 points. Nolan Smith was primarily a punt return and kickoff return specialist. He was listed at 5'5", 154 pounds, and nicknamed Super Nat. This 64-yard return was the longest in the AFL in 1969. His 64-yarder in 1968 was also the longest in the league. The kickoffs didn't have to be long in order for the Chiefs to score. Superstar linebacker Bobby Bell returned this one to ice the Chiefs' 19th win in 20 tries against the Broncos. The Chiefs were opportunistic in other ways during special teams play too. Jan Stenerud was the all-star kicker in 1969. He was a ski-jumping All-American at Montana State. The Norwegian-born Stenerud is the first pure kicker elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. In this game, he booted 5 field goals and had a stretch of 16 consecutive made field goals, a pro record at the time. Gerald Wilson averaged 44.4 yards per punt with no blocks, yet he didn't make the All-Star team. He made it in each of the following 3 seasons, however. On December 20th at blustery Shea Stadium, the opening round of the playoffs took place. In the fourth quarter, a New York field goal tied the score after the Jets had been stopped 3 times from the Kansas City 1-yard line. Then Len Dawson and Otis Taylor turned the game around with a 61-yard connection to the Jets' 19-yard line. On the next play, Dawson hit Gloucester Richardson for the game's only touchdown. With time running out, Joe Namath dropped back, hesitated too long, and underthrew Bake Turner. Jim Marsalis had his second interception on the day. With less than a minute remaining, the Chiefs punted and the Jets had one final chance but blew it. Rookie linebacker Bob Stein recovered the miscue, and the Jets' reign as champions had ended. This was the last AFL championship game, and it was played at Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. The Raiders were favored to win by 5 points. Early on, both the Chiefs' passing and running games were going nowhere fast. But then in the third quarter, the Chiefs caught a break, as it seems that Otis Taylor did not get both feet in bounds on this catch. The Chiefs took advantage of it and marched to a 14-7 lead. The Chiefs' defense took over big time. First-team All-Pro quarterback Daryle Lamonica was also the AFL's Player of the Year in 1969, but the Chiefs held him to only 15 of 39 passing for 167 yards. They intercepted him 3 times and sacked him 4 times for 37 yards and losses. The Chiefs' defense was absolutely dominating in this game. Stenerud added a 22-yard field goal, and the Chiefs paid the Raiders back for their 2 regular season wins against them. The Chiefs were 12-point underdogs to the Minnesota Vikings, but you'd never know it by how the game was played.